What is up, ladies and gentlemen, far and wide, and welcome on in to another installment of the Fast Five, presented as always by the fine folks over at Superbook Sports. It's your boy AP out here in Colorado, my man Unit, trying not to melt in the triple-digit temperatures of Las Vegas, Nevada. But hey, this is the time to stay inside, get your bets in with Superbook Sports with the baseball on the horizon, start looking towards football, and away we go. What's up, buddy? How you doing this week?
Good, staying cool, not going outside. I'm just going to stick in the AC and sit in front of the TV where it's a little more comfortable than 117 outside in Vegas.
Yeah, the trade-off of Vegas is the hot summers for the nice, cool falls and winters. So this is
and the nights, it's perfect. When the sun goes down and it's still 100, it feels good.
Yeah, out here it's raining in Colorado. If you're in any other states where Superbook Sports is available, hopefully you got better weather than both Unit and myself. So if you're in Colorado, bet with Superbook. If you're in Nevada, bet with Superbook. But Arizona, Iowa, Tennessee, New Jersey, Ohio, Maryland, Indiana, among others, or some other states coming on soon as well. Get those bets in with Superbook Sports. You can use my promo code APBETS. And when you use that promo code APBETS, you're going to get yourself a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up, deposit, and place a wager in the same day. Football season is on the horizon, folks. Let's build that bankroll up, and away we go. But we'll definitely talk a little football. The running back position has kind of been a big question mark with everything with training camp coming up here in a couple of weeks. We'll talk a little Shohei Ohtani, who has been the talk of the town in the sports world for the last week or so. We got some throwback uniforms in the NFL, college football traditions, and we'll do our thumbs up, thumbs down once again, my friend. But again, get those bets in with Superbook Sports, and away we go. All right, let's dive into it. Running backs, they ain't getting paid, man. Whether you're on the franchise tag and it's guys not signing or guys that just can't get a job. I mean, the big names that are out there right now: Dalvin Cook, unsigned. Ezekiel Elliott, unsigned. Kareem Hunt, unsigned. Saquon Barkley, not wanting to play on the franchise tag. Josh Jacobs in your, city of Las Vegas, Nevada, not wanting to play on the franchise tag. And I remember, I think it was an episode that you and I did a couple of weeks ago. I essentially compared the flyweight division in the UFC to that of running backs in the NFL, in the sense of flyweights in the UFC, Brandon Royval, local kid here in Colorado. It seems like they're always just looked over. I mean, you get the Figueroa and Brandon Moreno, quadrilogy before you get some new blood in there. And it feels like there's a similar kind of overlooking with the running back position as it pertains to the NFL. I mean, Dalvin Cook, Zeke, Kareem Hunt, Saquon, and Josh Jacobs are all quality players, and they can't get similar contracts to that of wide receivers or tight ends or other skill positions in the NFL. So to open it up, what's kind of your overall opinion on the NFL running back situation at the moment?
It sucks for them, but I mean, it's just the reality of it. They have absolutely no leverage. It's all supply and demand. There's millions of running backs. There's so many running backs right now that don't have jobs that are good quality running backs. You see it time and time again when a star running back gets hurt and a backup comes in, they do the same thing. It's just plug and play. And that's why they have no leverage and why, they can't get these big paychecks despite a pretty heavy workload for the teams and the offenses. It sucks for them. But, I mean, you see on Twitter – the little kicker comparison, how they're like, oh, this running back doesn't get as much. There are a million running backs, and there's 32 kickers, and only about 10 to 15 of them are even good. So I think that's just a ridiculous comparison. Yes, Justin Tucker is more valuable than any of these running backs. It's just a stupid comparison. It sucks for the running backs, but there's nothing that's going to change because why would the NFL team do anything about it? I mean, I saw this on Twitter earlier today comparing the Eagles and the Panthers. We saw that Miles Sanders went to the Panthers. He's getting paid $7.2 million. For that $7.2 million, the Eagles turn around and they put together a running back room of DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, Trey Sermon, and Kenneth Gainwell for $7.2 million for what the Panthers are paying Miles Sanders. Which room would you rather have? That stacked Eagles room of, guys that have different strengths and weaknesses that could kind of fill in any role, or just one Miles Sanders? Obviously, the Eagles are in the better boat in that sense, and they're going to be the ones competing for a Super Bowl, while the Panthers likely won't be.
Yeah, I mean, the running back situation, it's unfortunate. It falls in kind of this gray area of business of sport mixed with, the wear and tear of playing football. But, I mean, my take on it is don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, it's not the player, it's not the team's fault for recognizing that, as you just pointed out, we can go sign one guy for $7 million and change, or we can sign a boatload of guys, that add up to that sum and maybe get more efficiency and different dynamics with those players. So don't hate the player, hate the game. But the frustrating part that I can relate to the players on is, like, I look at Saquon Barkley. Like, what was Saquon Barkley, coming out of college? Like, that was like the thing that the Giant fan and the Giant organization kind of, hung their hat on. Josh Jacobs last year as well. It's milking these guys in their best years, having them take hits in college and then get to the NFL and having them take all these hits. And when, they've done so much for you, essentially giving them the hand and saying, you're not going to get what you've been. And I understand you got to pay for what you're going to get, not what you've received at that point in your career. But it's just, these guys are set up to be run into the ground. I mean, you look at it over and over again. I mean, I know Todd Gurley had some injury history, but out of the league, these guys, the running back position in particular, it's chewed up and spit out. And I do think it's unfair in the sense of how important running backs are to the game. The importance of a running back in the game plan is not equating to the value in which they're getting paid. And because of that, I do think there's a little bit of a problem. And here's what I was even looking at, because the franchise tag is the big thing that's going on with Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs right now, where you get, a nice chunk of change for 1 year, more than you would get over an AAV over the course of a contract. But it's a one and done thing. Tony Pollard playing on the franchise tag this year. What doesn't make sense to me, and where I think there needs to be some change, is the only team, because the franchise tag is essentially an average of all the top players of that position, right? The salary. The running back, the salary the franchise tag for running backs is at $10.1 million. The only position that you can franchise tag a player on that has a less AAV right now in the NFL is a kicker and a punter at $5.39 million. Quarterbacks at $32 million on average. Wide receivers are at $19 million on average. Tight ends at $11 million on average. Offensive linemen, $18 million. Defensive ends, $19 million. So that's where it's not adding up to me, because the running backs take a ton of punishment. Their longevity is not nearly as long as some of these other positions. And even the lump sum of the averages is second lowest only to kickers, despite the wear and tear they're putting on their bodies. So I understand the league's not wanting to give these guys 4 or 5 year deals for big money, but the AAV is not adding up to the franchise tag. And I don't know what the solution is, my friend, but I can understand why these running backs are fed up.
Well, there's not going to be a solution, because you see every year there's guys, you could draft a running back in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, and they come in, it's just plug and play. And these guys drafted late that are making nothing end up having great seasons and having a big impact on the team. I mean, most teams have 3 to 4 running backs on the roster, so that kind of skews the average a little bit. But they have no leverage, because they could just go ahead and draft a guy like even the Bears, my team, for example. Right. They drafted Bijan Robinson's backup, and he's probably going to get a bulk of the carries this year, and they're paying their running backs pretty much nothing. And
look at how Kenneth Walker burst on the scene last year. I mean, time and time again, you're seeing these running backs. Now, the one gripe that I will have is, there's a lot of noise about, like, pay the players. These guys need more money. And I don't disagree, especially with the wear and tear associated with the position. But who is the one set of people that should be looking out for the players and looking out for the running back in particular? The Players Association, right? We always hear about, collective bargaining agreements, this and that. The franchise tag has been around for 30 years, unit. 30 years. There's been 3 separate collective bargaining agreements negotiated from the time in which the franchise tag was introduced and where we're at now, with the most recent collective bargaining agreement being in 2020. So I look at the Players Association and kind of scratch my head and say, why aren't you sticking up for your running backs? The quarterbacks are getting a bag. The receivers are getting a bag. Why are the running backs not getting a bag in a similar type of way, knowing the load that they have to shoulder to, become who they are in the league? So I look a little bit at the Players Association, because, like I said, 3 separate collective bargaining agreements have been negotiated since the franchise tag was introduced. So at the end of the day, if there's going to be change, it's going to come in those negotiating sessions. Yeah,
and that's probably something that's going to be a point in when it comes time for the next agreement. So we'll see, but I can't see anything changing anytime soon. It's just the way of the league right now.
And that's why, Ezekiel Elliott looks like a genius for holding out when he did, and Jerry Jones looks like a fool for giving him, $90 million over 6 years.
I don't think we'll be seeing that anytime soon.
No. And honestly, I know he was tweeting about it, making his Bugs Life comparisons. Le'Veon Bell is kind of the one who I think started this whole – Jerry just caved. Le'Veon Bell was the guy who was going to play the hard game, got a bag from the Jets, but essentially ended his career. So, yeah, I wonder, as we move forward, like, if you're a young kid who's maybe not 6'5", but you fit that mold of a traditional running back, like, do you look to play another sport? Do you look to play another position because you know the career earnings aren't up there, with everything? But it is what it is. Let's move along here because I've been wanting to talk about this one. Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani. Major League Baseball trade deadline is rapidly approaching here. The Angels are a 500 team at 49-48 as of this recording. Ohtani is the best player I've probably seen in my lifetime. I mean, he really is a modern-day Babe Ruth. I mean, he's at, 30-plus home runs, striking out pitchers left and right. I mean, he's an absolute marvel on the bump and in the batter's box. He's playing for a 500 club, though. And it's almost like the Angels as a whole. It's almost like if you gave them Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio and they have nothing to show for it with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. That's the comparison right now. So the question, just to kind of open it up to you, what's going to happen with Ohtani? Do you think the Angels will look to trade him? Do you think Ohtani wants to be traded? What's kind of units temperature on the Shohei Ohtani situation?
I've been kind of on the fence. I think it's about 50-50 whether or not he gets traded. I mean, people talk about, he needs to get away from the Angels because the Angels suck. They're a 500 team. But then you see the teams interested in trading for him are worse than the Angels. There's these teams that I've seen these hypothetical trades with and everything, like the Mariners, for instance. They're in the same division and they're slightly behind the Angels. Why would they do that? The Yankees, who have a pretty good record, but they're in an uphill battle because they're in last place. Your Mets, they have a losing record, and people are talking about him going to the Mets. So it's going to be interesting to see if he is traded, and of course it's going to be a rental situation, so it could make or break your team for the next couple of years if you were to go all in on him. The teams where I would say that it would make sense for would maybe be the Yankees, just because they have a good amount to offer him. I mean, the Orioles, they just took over first place. They're up there battling with the Rays. They got a big series with them right now. The Rays and Orioles would be really cool to see him go to one of those teams. I just want to see Shohei Ohtani play competitive baseball in games that matter because, you see his highlights every night. But also I want to see him go to a team where they're not blacked out in Las Vegas. I want to watch the Angels all the time, but I can't because they black it out on my MLB TV. So, I want to see him go to the Orioles. I want to see him go to the Rays, a team like that's playing competitive baseball. It's going to be fun, and they're not blacked out in Vegas.
Well, we've talked about on this show, you and I are both baseball fans, and a Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout deep run in the postseason, I think, would work wonders for the sport. The odds of that happening don't look very good right now, especially with Trout out and with Ohtani potentially being a free agent. The way that I look at it is I think the Angels have a very good chance to retain him. I think he's comfortable there. Based off some of the research I've done, he only speaks with the media consistently after he pitches, so he's not talking to them every day. If he went to New York, whether it was the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox, whatever it might be in the East Coast, that won't fly. So I think it's a low-stress environment playing for the Angels. But if you were to depart, if winning were to be top of mind, which is a big question, does Shohei Ohtani just want to be comfortable or does he want to win? There's 5 teams outside of the Angels that I've identified as potential suitors for Shohei Ohtani. They're all names that a lot of people have been talking about. The obvious one is the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Dodgers actually have the prospects to pull off a trade midseason and probably convince him to stay because of the location. But Artie Moreno, I think, is – I mean, it would take an absolute Godfather offer for him to deal him to a crosstown rival. So I think the Dodgers are a team. I think the Giants, for similar reasons to the Dodgers, they got a lot of money. They threw a bag at Aaron Judge. I think if he hits free agency, I think San Francisco could be a team. And a team that you mentioned as well that I think is a real factor here is the Seattle Mariners in free agency. He grew up, Ohtani did, as a big fan of Ichiro Suzuki. We know what Ichiro did for the Seattle Mariners in his career. Seattle, West Coast, closer to Japan than it is in LA. And Seattle as a whole, has a very strong Asian population out there. So I think that probably feeds into it as well of, hey, I can go to a market where I get a bag. I'm playing for the same franchise that my childhood idol did. There's a lot of remnant, kind of Asian feel, Asian culture in this city, and you're still close to Japan. I think the biggest thing is he wants to be on the West Coast. And the other 2 teams that I had on there were the Red Sox and the Mets. And the reason that I have the Red Sox is because I know he loves Yoshida, and I know I've seen some interviews with him talking about how much he loves Fenway Park. And the reason I have to put the Mets on there is because simply Steve Cohen can offer far more money than anybody else can. So those are the 5 teams outside of the Angels that I identify as legitimate options to make a run at Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. I have heard that he doesn't want to go to the East Coast.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. I've also heard that the Angels refused to deal into the Dodgers. So I don't see that happening. Yesterday, the Orioles just acquired Fujinami, the the
I saw
pitcher who
that.
throws gas. He's been better of late, but his stats don't look very good. But I wonder if that's a selling point to Ohtani, because they did play together in Japan.
It could be. But here's the other thing. I agree with you about 50-50. And I honestly think if I had to lean right now, I think it's either the Dodgers or the Angels. I really believe that. I think he either stays with the Angels and Artie Moreno throws an absurd amount of money at him, or the Dodgers do essentially the same thing. Because I think the biggest thing is Shohei Ohtani is very comfortable right now. Like, he's not an American, phenom where he's like used to like being in the glitz and the glamour and the spotlight. Like, I think Shohei Ohtani is very comfortable with the pressure or lack thereof sometimes of playing for the Angels. There's a lot of attention on him. And I think if he goes to any of those other franchises, whether it's the Giants, even the Dodgers to an extent, Mariners, whatever it might be, I just think that the spotlight is a little amplified on Shohei Ohtani. So I do think the comfort factor is big for him. And honestly, if Artie Moreno and company could show him a roadmap to success and winning, I mean, I think it makes sense for him to stay in that sense. I think it also comes down, and the other thing is the speculation about Ohtani, East Coast, whatever it might be. We haven't heard that from him. We're hearing that from reporters or people around him. We don't know what Shohei Ohtani is thinking himself. So I would think that comfort, though, is as important or close to as important as winning for Shohei Ohtani at this point in his career, just given who he is and everything about him. So I think the Angels or the Dodgers, any team on the West Coast is going to have a significant advantage in either signing him or keeping him in his career.
Yeah, you mentioned the reports. I mean, we haven't heard really a whole lot from Ohtani, what he wants. I don't even know what to believe in any of these reports.
Exactly.
Want to go to the East Coast. I've never heard that outside of just these reports. So we'll see. But all that matters is we get to watch Shohei Ohtani. So
he's incredible. I think I'll say this and then we can move on. I unfortunately think he'll go to the Dodgers. I just think the Dodgers are going to throw an obscene amount of money. I think he'll use Steve Cohen and the Mets as leverage to get more money from the Dodgers. And because think about it, it's essentially the same thing as playing for the Angels, except you're on a better team. And I think it works out in that sense as well. So I think he's going to stay in the state of California. I think it's either that or he goes to Seattle. I think Seattle actually has a real chance to pull this thing off as well, but we shall see. All right, let's have some fun here and let's talk a little uniforms. I feel like uniforms, like it's July 20th, end of the month of July, the dead period of sports. This is where you do uniform conversation and sports media and whatnot. But we have something to kind of go off of. It's not just like ranking uniforms that have been around for forever. We've got some new looks that are coming out across the NFL. The Indianapolis Colts released a new set of uniforms. The Seahawks, the Bucks, the Titans are expected to release one. The Broncos, the Browns. So there's a lot of, the NBA, I feel like, is the sport that has started with the whole, like, let's have a bunch of different jerseys or bring back, classic jerseys. The NFL is now adopting that. So of the bunch that we've seen so far, what do you like? What don't you like? Give me your thoughts.
I love all the throwbacks. I think football uniforms should be, or NFL uniforms should be, traditional. And I really love, obviously the creamsicles are classics. So I think that's up there towards the top. The Eagles bringing back the Kelly Green. Those are fire. The Titans, they've had these leaks of the Oilers uniforms coming back. I love a baby blue uniform. The Oilers might be at the top of my list. And then the Seahawks. Those uniforms are incredible, like the Steve Largent era uniform, but with like a modern spin on it. Those are great. The ones I'm not a fan of, I think, all of these teams have hit. The Colts and the Browns, they struck out.
They say great minds think alike, and we are thinking alike on that front because the Browns just can't do anything right. I mean, seriously, like they had one, a couple of good years, this and that, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. Now bad uniforms and bad play for the entirety of my lifetime. The Browns just can't do anything right, and they can't get out of their own way. Not a fan of their jerseys. And I agree with you about Indianapolis. To me, Indianapolis looks like you take the Giants and you take the Lions, you put them together, and you don't really even get anything that looks good. The way I put it is it looks like those Colts jerseys were like designed in like 2004 or like 2005. Like they don't look modern. Like I don't want to say that they look dated, but like the whole like black helmet, dark blue, like I don't know. It almost feels tacky to me. So I think the Browns jerseys are better. I think the Browns jerseys are just basic. The Colts jerseys are horrendous. I think the black helmet could work on a different jersey, but all in all, it ain't connected for me in Indianapolis.
Yeah, the Colts and the Browns, actually what loses me is the helmet. I don't think the Colts shouldn't be wearing a black helmet.
Yeah.
I saw someone on Twitter said it looks like they're trying to win a Conference USA championship in there. And then the Browns, I don't want to see the Browns wear a white helmet. That's the Cleveland Browns. Their damn logo is an orange helmet. They should wear an orange helmet.
So what I'm saying, they can't get out of their own way. Like, seriously, whether it's personnel decisions, marketing decisions. Like, do you remember it was probably 10 years ago now where they like teased like this whole rebrand, like revamp, and it was just a different shade of orange on the helmet? Like what are they doing? Like,
they added that goofy alpha to this.
Man. I don't know what's going on in Cleveland. If you're a Browns fan, I'm sorry. The Colts, Irsay is a weird guy, so maybe that's the reasoning there. I don't know. We got a couple other teams. You mentioned, Tennessee's been kind of teasing their Oilers jerseys. We'll see how that comes out. We haven't officially seen, I don't think, the Eagles release those Kelly Greens, although it's basically confirmed. I don't think we've had an official release from the Eagles. But locally here in Colorado, you'll see over my shoulder right here, if I can point the right way. There it is. Move my head. Broncos might be getting themselves a new, either a new helmet, a new jersey, whatever it might be. I can tell you this, a lot of fans out here are sick and tired of the navy blue and orange, and they think they're tacky. I mean, they got 3 jerseys, the orange, the white, the navy blue. A lot of fans want that old school Denver Broncos logo paired with that old school orange and that sky blue. And I know they've kind of teased some stuff. The teases that we've seen from the Broncos on social media show some sort of ice, which makes me think they might go in the direction of a white helmet or a white jersey or whatever it might be. But I do think of, like you talked about, the throwbacks and the classic jerseys. The Broncos should absolutely look back to those light blue and orange jerseys that they used to wear when Elway was first in the league, Dan Reeves and all that good stuff. I think that's one of the cleanest jerseys, one of the cleanest logos in sports.
Yeah, I think the Broncos should go permanently back to all those retro uniforms, the lighter shade of blue and then the logo, the D on the helmet. I think those are way better than the primary uniforms they have right now. So I think they should just ultimately go all the way back. But one team that we didn't even mention is the Patriots. Their throwbacks are back, the red uniforms.
Yeah.
Those are one of the best too, and are kind of the same uniforms they wore in 85, 86 when they lost to the Bears in the Super Bowl.
I love how you know that. Just I knew you probably had that in your notes, like ready to go. Like I know how you think.
That's always my brain.
No, I hear you. I love those uniforms as well. So hopefully the NFL gets a little bit more creative. Like I think of the ones we talked about, though, the one that kind of made me get most excited was the Seahawks. Like I think those Seahawks uniforms I'm just so over like
on those uniforms too. You see like the inside, they have like the dome in there and everything. It's those uniforms, they get it. The Seahawks get it. And especially the way they released them too. They did like the dial-up internet and the old website. They get it. Seahawks hit, Colts Browns miss.
Yeah, so we'll see what the NFL has in store as we move forward. I don't think your Bears and my Cowboys have anything coming for us, though. They've had the same jerseys for as long as they've been around. So
yeah, well, the Bears got one back, not back, but they added one last year with the orange helmets, which I don't like because it reminds me of the 2 games that they lost in those uniforms. So they added those. They suck, though.
Fair enough. All right, let's move along to a little college football. I know the media days are going on now for the big conferences and all that good stuff. And you threw out a fun little question. We'll do a snake draft for the best traditions, in college football. And you have an other category, but we got, 4, 8, 12 different options essentially that we're going to be able to pull from. And college football,
I think we could take more from just that. Just those are just
those are the brainstormers.
Availables, yeah.
Well, and the NFL has become so commercialized that it feels like a lot of the tradition is, I don't want to say leaving the game, but like it doesn't have the same feel all the time. Like that's where I think college football essentially separates itself, is you still have these traditions with these big schools, even the small schools that maybe don't get as much love. Like tradition is still very much rooted in college football. And so we'll do a little snake draft here. So first pick will get 1 and then 2 in a row, boom, 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 and we'll go back and forth. I believe we started before the show. I think I'm going first, correct?
Yeah, do it.
All right. Oof, there's a lot of good ones here, man. Ugh, man, I don't know which one I want to go with. You know what? I'm going to go with it because I like what it says. I like the song, and I was a big fan of Tyrod Taylor when I was growing up. I'm going with Enter Sandman for Virginia Tech for my number 1 overall pick here in the college football traditions. for the snake draft. I just think the energy in that stadium. I've watched YouTube clips of that growing up as a kid. Like I said, Tyrod Taylor, I remember watching him as a kid as well. I'll go with the Enter Sandman tradition over there at Vatek. One of my favorites.
When you see online when it's like 50 days until college football or 60 days, whatever, that's always the video they use is Enter Sandman. Like, can't wait for college football season. I always get chills when I see the video. However, it was not my 1-1, but it might have been second. My 1-1 is Jump Around, Wisconsin. Between the third and fourth quarter, they play Jump Around. The entire stadium jumps up and down. Even the opposing team, even the broadcasters, everyone does. You get chills every time it happens. It's even cooler in person. I got to go Jump Around with my first pick. That's just,
it's a classic.
Everyone fired up. Right when you hear the first note of that song, everyone kind of looks at each other and the whole stadium just jumps. You can feel the vibration. It's got to be my 1-1. And then I guess my wraparound, I had Enter Sandman as number 2. So I'm going to stay in the Big Ten, and I'm going to go the Wave, Iowa, when they all wave at the Children's Hospital. I think that's got to be one of the best. So I'll start with 2 Big Ten picks as a Midwest guy myself.
Yeah, the Wave is wholesome. That's what I like about it as well, is like it feels right, and especially in this society where there's so much negativity, like that's something that every time I see it on Twitter or social media or when I'm watching the games live, I'm always like, I got just a little bit of faith in humanity still, with everything that goes on with that. So I like it, man. I was honestly going to go with the Wave as one of my next picks. So Wisconsin's Jump Around off the board, the Wave off the board, and Enter Sandman off the board. Ooh, now it's going to I got a couple. You know what? I got to keep it local, especially because I've seen it live.
This is coming, yeah.
I'm going with Ralphie. I mean, for anyone out there who has not seen that thing run across that field before a game, it is a spectacle. It really is a spectacle. The handlers are all like, doing their thing and just whoom. Like, it's insane, dude. So I'll go Ralphie with my second pick here.
I will say one thing about Ralphie. I was a doubter until I saw it live. Okay.
Yes.
When I went to a game last year, I believe it was against UCLA, I was sitting right by where they keep them and the handlers are. Before the game, the handlers were like doing stretches and sprints, warming up. And I was like, that's a baby buffalo. It's not going to, it can't be that hard. But when they run out, they're all falling down behind it and everything. It's completely strong ass animal. And, it just takes off and they're falling down behind it. It is much cooler in person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like Folsom, the setting there is beautiful already. And then it's just like, here's this buffalo just running laps around the field. And then it's like, oh, here's a football game. It just, I don't know. I mean, look at the helmet behind me too. Like, it feels Colorado. And I know that I live here, so I'm biased and all that kind of stuff. But I'll go with Ralphie as my next pick. And I'll go with one of the quirkier ones just because I think it's funny. Howard's Rock at Clemson for my second pick. I just think it's funny. Like, not that it's like a great tradition. I just think it's like, oh, like they got a rock. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a couple of buddies that have gone out there and they've sent me pictures of it. And it's just like, as a kid, like you collect rocks and you know what I'm saying? Like rocks are like a form of entertainment. I did that as a kid. I used to always am I like weird for doing that? I feel like a lot of kids used to collect rocks.
I've heard it. I've never done that.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is like the adult version of that, where it's like Clemson is just like, we've got this rock. It's a famous rock. We love this rock. We're going to make it a part of our tradition. Maybe they should get the Rock to start doing their intros for their football games as well. So I'll go with Howard's Rock for my third overall pick, but my second of this round. So
yeah, that's on all the lists that you see if you look it up on the internet. But that's at the bottom of my list. It's not even on my board just because it's a rock.
That's what I like about it, though. It's weird.
That doesn't fire me up like the rest of these ones do. So now I've got some options here. Now that you took those. I think I'm going to go Chief Osceola, Florida State. You've got a live horse. You got a live flame. Throw the spear into in the midfield. They go all out for it. The fans go crazy. That one is just electric. It's a great, kind of, tip of the hat to the Seminoles. And, anytime you have a live mascot and anytime you have a live animal like a horse involved, that's pretty sweet. So I'm going to go Chief Osceola, Florida State.
Okay. Interesting.
Then my wraparound, I've got some options here. Quite a few really good ones that haven't been taken. So what? I've got one more pick after this too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna go because I'm thinking my last pick you probably won't take. So I'm gonna go the Sooner Schooner at Oklahoma.
I hate
Um,
you, bro. I hate you.
Especially, I mean, everyone's seen that clip where it tips over. That's
That's what makes it great for me.
the first thing that happens. But yeah, when you have a live animal, it's their logo. You got the Schooner. I'm taking that. That's pretty sweet.
That's fair. I also was gonna. That's where I was gonna go next because I know a lot of Cowboys fans are also OU fans, so I feel like I have like the connection in that front, and I like the memes, so that's always a good one. Dang man! All right, now you're making it tough on me. Oh, let's see. For my next pick, all right, I know where I'm going. So for the first next pick, I'll go with West Virginia Country Roads. It's just an incredible experience. I mean, who doesn't like everything that I mean, I know West Virginia is a state. I don't really know much about it. But I know the logo, I know the school, I know the song, and I know everything that goes into it. So I'll go with West Virginia Country Roads because I feel like it's just timeless. You know, when talking about tradition and classic, like what is there to do in West Virginia outside of go to football games? I'm not going to name him, but I believe a person that works for you, I believe either attended at school or I've heard some stories about why they have to start their games very early because if you start their games in the evening, let's just say that town just
They like to burn couches too out there. That's
so like if you have to play your games early in the day to prevent people from becoming menaces to society and you also have country roads involved in your tradition, that's the type of rowdy that I'm trying to get down with. So West Virginia Country Roads for my next pick here as well.
Like other sporting or all like even professional sports are kind of ruining that song though because you'll see like other teams that are nowhere near Virginia, which that song's about Virginia, not West Virginia. And they play it and their fans sing it and they have no relation to that song or anything. It's just like a sing-along song. I feel like it's starting to get kind of ruined now.
It's definitely a little oversaturated, but when you're in the origin, like when you're in that stadium, when you're in that state where all there is to do is watch football and talk about the school, I think it means a little something. But that's like everything in life. I mean, Indiana Jones remake, Star Wars remake, everything just gets ruined over time, whether it's in entertainment or music or whatever it might be. This is no exception. But at its core, it's still a great song and it's still a great experience out there in West Virginia. All right, for my next one, right? I got one more, right?
Yep. And then
I'll keep it classic, much like your sentiment with the Wave. I love when Army and Navy play every year, just because I feel like the academies don't get a ton of love. Air Force, I know out here in Colorado, it's not a part of this, but the March On in the Army Navy game, like I always know when the Army Navy game is, right? They're not prestigious programs, all that kind of stuff, but every radio station, every ESPN, whatever it might be, whenever the Army Navy game is on, they make a big deal out of it. And so I associate the March On and just the game itself with, again, Americana, college football, the military, all that kind of stuff. So from a classic football perspective, my next pick will go with Army Navy March On.
It's a good pick. Everyone watches it, no matter how bad either team is. And it's always normally a pretty competitive game. And the under hits every single year.
Yes, it does.
So my Mr. Irrelevant, I'll go with my last pick, one that I've seen live quite a few times, Running Through the T in Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. They've got the band and they run through the T. The crowd goes nuts. You got Rocky Top playing. That's just electric, and that's one of the best, if not the best, environments in college football. So Mr. Irrelevant, even though it's I still think a great pick, I'll do Running Through the T.
I like that one a lot. I'll stick with the SEC for my final pick, and I'll go with Sandstorm with South Carolina, simply because I think it's another one of those, like, everybody knows Sandstorm. Which one?
Do you have another pick, or was that your fifth one?
That's my last one, isn't it? Was that my last one? Oh, no, I'm done. That's right. I did 2-2. I'm all screwed up.
Good honorable mention. I think.
Yeah, that would have been my honorable mention, excuse me, is Sandstorm with South Carolina. But,
Kansas State does the same exact thing.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even have been able to tell you that, to be honest with you. Like, where is Kansas? Well, I guess Kansas State's had some decent years in the past, but
they just
South
won the
Carolina football. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they were good in basketball. And I know it's not the same, but I actually applied to Kansas State. I almost went to school there, so I guess I should know that as well. But yeah, that would be my honorable
mentions that you had.
Oof, that's the only one that kind of comes to mind. I mean, I hate it, but I grew up around it as a kid. They do the little fight on thing. I forget at which quarter they do, but I've been to a couple of USC games as a kid where like that, they just overtake the stadium. And I grew up going to the Pete Carroll USC games as well. So that was always fun. Cam the Ram doesn't really move the needle for me out here at CSU, although I like animals, so always cool to see a live animal. I'm a big fan of the live animal mascot. Like, I love that in general. So I feel like that's always going to be a leg up for me.
Yeah. I just saw the video of Bevo, the Texas mascot, go after Uga. I think it was a show years ago. That was pretty cool. The only other things on my list that didn't get taken was Penn State whiteout at night at Beaver Stadium. That's pretty electric. I mean, the crowd goes nuts. It's, I think, the second biggest stadium in college football. And then also another Big Ten is the Script, Ohio. Their band is one of the best, Dotting the I in Ohio. Toomer's Corner in Auburn. That's pretty sweet. And that's all I had on my list that didn't get picked. So we covered all the good ones, I think.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. And it honestly just gets me more and more excited now for college football to come back. Like I said, the media days are all going on. We got head coaches taking shots at Dion, and I'm just, I'm so curious to see what happens with Colorado, but also just in general across the college football landscape. So we'll see how it shakes out. All right. Before we get out of here, our new segment, we debuted it last week. We're going to keep it going throughout the entirety of these shows. We'll end with a thumbs up, a thumbs down. I'll let you go first, my friend. What is your thumbs up for the week?
Thumbs up right now is the state of baseball, just baseball in general. The games have been electric. I don't know if you saw the Braves D-backs game the other day. That was great. 12 teams, I think it was on Tuesday. 12 teams scored 10-plus runs. So I don't know if they got the juice baseballs out or they're just hitting the crap out of the ball. Baseball right now. Also, immaculate grid. I can't start my day without doing that. I know we've been texting back and forth comparing our answers. So just baseball in general. It's perfect right now. We've got the Ohtani talk that we just went through. You've got some electric teams that are, playing better this year than they have in the past. The Orioles are in first place. We're seeing some new things. We're seeing some young studs on a lot of these teams. Baseball is alive and well right now.
I agree with you, my friend, and we'll see, if Ohtani can get on a winner. I think it's only going to continue to, boost the platform of the game. For my thumbs up, I'm going with like a reverse psychology thumbs up because on the surface, it might not sound very good, but I think it's going to add fuel to the fire, which will ultimately result in a good thing. And I just saw this before we hopped on air. The Pac-12 media pool projects CU to finish in 11th place in the Pac-12 this season. That's behind ASU, that's behind Cal, and ahead of only Stanford. And the reason that I go with my thumbs up is because CU's got some talent, man. They got Coach Prime. And like I talked about, the OU head coach, other head coaches, chirping about Dion this, Dion that. You know what I'll tell you? I think teams are scared. I think schools are scared if Deion Sanders has success. You know why? Because it's against the norm. It would be a celebrity. It would be a big-time, college player, professional player, baseball player, whatever it might be. It's against the tradition of college football for somebody like Deion Sanders to go from Jackson State to a Power 5 and have success. Now, what is success? I believe their win total set at 3.5, whatever it might be. But for CU to be projected as the 11th best team in the Pac-12, which is not exactly the greatest conference in the world, I think I don't want to say a slap in the face, but I think it's a little bit of let's kick CU while they're down while we still can. And I think Coach Prime and company look at that as, hey, people think ASU is better than us. People think Cal's better than us. The only team that people think we're better than in the Pac-12 is Stanford. I bet. I think that adds fuel to the fire for Coach Prime and CU. So that's my thumbs up to get this Buffs team ready to go for the season.
Yeah, I think I don't have too high of expectations, but anything is going to be an upgrade for CU. I mean, their past few years, at least, all these games are going to be sold out. Right now, we've got them at 100-1 to win the Pac-12 championship. That's the same odds as Arizona State, Cal, and then Stanford's behind them at 500-1. But I think that's going to be a pretty fun conference. I think there's 4 really good teams in that conference with USC, Oregon, Utah, and then Washington is probably my pick to win it. I think they have the best offense in all of college football. So I'm not as high on CU, but they're going to be fun.
Yeah, I think they won 1 game last year. And now you got Coach Prime. And here's the thing, if it works, watch out. Because it's a breath of fresh air to college sports, college football in particular. And that's why I think that some of these teams, some of these programs, they don't want to see Deion succeed. Because if Deion succeeds, that means that maybe things are going to start changing in the game as we move forward. So
that's why he's at CU, because it was one of the only schools that's able to take a big enough risk, because if it flops, so what? They were, terrible. It can't get any worse.
Yeah.
So they're one of the teams that were able to take a risk like this.
They've already sold out 2 home games. Nebraska, which is to be expected. I'll be taking the points in that game as well. I think I'm also going to bet the over on CU just for fun. And I know there's a lot of money on that. It's a very public play, but let's have some fun, right? Nebraska sold out. Stanford sold out. So 2 home games already. And I don't think CU sold out a home game before the season started in over 10 years. So the Coach Prime effect, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Those were our thumbs up. Let's move to our thumbs down. Where you at, my friend?
This one is actually a video that we just posted on the Superbook Sports Twitter. Is Jared Kalenic broke his foot kicking a water cooler. Then he had a sad, interview response, giving his now he's going to have to miss some time with a broken foot because he let his emotions get the best of him and kick a water cooler. If you're going to destroy a water cooler, be like Carlos Zambrano and use a bat. Don't use your foot. Use a bat and destroy a Gatorade cooler or something. Take out your anger that way. Don't kick it.
I think Big Papi did the same thing at one point where he just got a bat and bashed in the bullpen phone. Yeah. Don't do something with your body against, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, have like a bat or a glove or throw a baseball as far as you can. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't punch a wall. Don't kick a cooler. Like, don't do that. Like, it's just, I understand it's the heat of the moment. That was actually one of the things I had on my list for my thumbs down. Bad moment for the young player Kalenic. So we'll see how that shakes out. Another one that kind of hits home to me, and I got to get this off my chest for my thumbs down. The Rockies just finished up a series with the Astros. They drew, on average, over 40,000 fans a game. Over 40,000 for the Colorado Rockies. And I know it's the Astros who are a good team, but the Rockies continue to draw fans and fans and fans and fans, despite having, I believe, either the worst or the second worst record in the National League. They had 43,871 fans for one of the games against the Astros. That's 13 straight games since June 23rd. The Rockies have drawn at least 36,000 fans. That's the longest streak in club history since 2001. When they drew 36,000 fans in 23 straight games. So the Rockies are essentially setting records and milestones for fan attendance, which leads to revenue. In their worst season in 10 years, they're the second or third worst team, or the first or second worst team in the National League, and they're still drawing upwards of 30,000 fans a night. I don't want to say that I blame the fan, but it's my thumbs down, because if the fans keep showing out like this and keep putting money in their pockets and their butts in the seats, ain't nothing changing. So my thumbs down. I love the Rockies. I love summer. I love Coors Field. 36,000 fans in 13 consecutive games with this bad of a team is a problem, my friend. So that's my thumbs down.
Yeah, I think even if Rockies fans decided to boycott and not show up to the games, it's not going to work, because it's such a good destination for people to go visit Denver and Colorado in general, and, parlay it with seeing their favorite baseball team play. So when you go to a game at Coors, you're definitely going to see a lot of the opposing fans, and that's never going to stop, because Denver is such a great destination to go to and watch a baseball game. So I'm sure you see a lot of opposing fans around the city.
As we say here sometimes in the studio, the Rockies are not in the business of selling baseball. The Rockies are in the business of selling Colorado summers, and they do it better than anybody else in town. So that's my thumbs down. But all right, buddy, another fun one. A lot of topics. I'm excited. NFL season on the horizon, college football on the horizon, baseball pennant race coming up as well. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to get off the chest before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's not boycott the Rockies. Let's go to some games next weekend when I'm in town. Let's watch some baseball.
We're going to be part of the problem. I mean, we might have to, but it's just like,
I'm fine with that.
I know. It's just you know what it's like when a town rallies around their baseball team when they're good. I saw it a little bit when they were in the playoffs in back-to-back years. This town has so many baseball fans that if they just put a product on the field, I'm telling you, it'd be one of the best environments year over year to root for, catch a game, all things included. They just can't produce a winner. So it is what
Ohtani to the Rockies. You got to just
I actually asked ChatGPT about that. I said, how many home runs would Ohtani hit if he played for the Rockies? And ChatGPT said anywhere between 35 and 45 home runs, which I think is a little generous.
From the second half,
I think he could hit 50 plus if he played a full season at Coors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's on that pace right now.
Yeah, he's a marvel, man. But all right, that's going to do it for us. Another episode of the Fast Five in the books. Unit, stay cool out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm out here in Colorado. Both of those states, the Superbook Sports app is available, so be sure to get those bets. And I was also looking at Super Contest is coming up. Maybe I gotta throw my name in the hat for that one. I might have to, man.
But
But
win if you don't play.
yes, exactly right. So if you're in Colorado, Arizona, Iowa, Tennessee, New Jersey, Ohio, Maryland, Nevada, and a handful of other states coming in the future, be sure to get your bets in with Superbook Sports. And if you use my promo code APBETS, you'll find yourself with a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up, deposit, and place a wager in the same day. That's promo code APBETS, and away we go. All right, that's going to do it for us. You, my man, always good chat with you. We'll do it again next week. Enjoy your summer. Good luck on the baseball bets. Talk to you soon, folks.